I think is happening is I think there are fake people on the payroll. I think that paychecks are getting sent to people who do not really exist.
Money doesn't usually speak this loudly unless something is wrong. And in the final days of Charlie Kirk's life, those closest to him say he had begun to notice it too. About a week before his death, Charlie reportedly confided that the numbers at Turning Point USA no longer made sense. Funds appeared to be moving in unfamiliar patterns. Expenses didn't line up cleanly with incoming donations, and routine financial explanations suddenly felt insufficient. For someone who had built the organization from the ground up and watched every phase of its growth, this sense of unease was not casual paranoia. It was described as a serious concern voiced privately, without fanfare, but with enough weight that those who heard it remember the moment clearly. Charlie had always trusted systems, but in those final days, something about the flow of money felt off, and that realization now sits at the center of a growing storm. As questions around Charlie's worry surfaced, a more troubling claim began circulating among insiders and former associates, allegations that TPUSA payroll records may have included employees who do not actually exist. According to these claims, paychecks were allegedly issued to names that could not be verified, raising the possibility of ghost employees or shell arrangements used to move money internally. In large organizations, payroll errors do happen, but critics argue this situation goes far beyond administrative mistakes. The concern is not simply about accounting sloppiness, but about intentional financial manipulation hidden behind complex staffing structures. Supporters of the organization dismiss these accusations as rumor-driven attacks, yet the persistence of the claim has forced uncomfortable conversations among donors and staff alike. When an organization built on transparency and accountability faces questions about whether its own payroll is real, trust becomes fragile, and every unanswered detail deepens suspicion. Adding to the unease are reports that TPUSA had been quietly under financial investigation before Charlie's death. Multiple sources have claimed that regulatory scrutiny was underway, examining how money was being raised, reported, and spent. What unsettles observers is not just the existence of the investigation, but the fact that it seemingly vanished. There was no public resolution, no announcement of cleared wrongdoing, and no formal explanation of why the scrutiny stopped. For critics, this sudden silence is not reassuring. Instead, it has fueled speculation that powerful interests may have stepped in, smoothing over issues that would have otherwise come to light. In a climate where financial accountability is already under question, the disappearance of oversight raises more red flags than reassurance ever could. This is where attention increasingly turns to Erika Kirk and her network of high-level political connections. Erika's past proximity to influential figures, including Donald Trump and prominent conservative elites, has become a focal point of public discussion. Some believe these relationships could help explain why certain investigations appeared to lose momentum. While there is no publicly confirmed evidence that political pressure halted any inquiry, the optics alone have been damaging. To skeptics, the timing feels too convenient. Instead of easing concerns, Erika's connections have intensified them, creating the impression that power and access may have insulated the organization from consequences that would apply elsewhere. In politics, perception often matters as much as proof, and here, perception is doing serious harm. Following Charlie's death, the financial tension spilled into the donor community in an unprecedented way. Influential voices began urging supporters to ask hard questions about where their money had gone. This wasn't casual chatter on social media. It was a direct challenge to the organization's financial credibility. For TPUSA, an organization accustomed to enthusiastic donor loyalty, what followed was almost unheard of. Some donors began requesting refunds. That action alone signaled a profound shift in trust. Refund requests are rare in political nonprofits, and their appearance suggested that supporters were no longer comfortable assuming good faith. Instead, they wanted proof, clarity, and accountability, and until they received it, their financial support was no longer guaranteed. Paradoxically, even as donor unease grew, TPUSA experienced a massive influx of money after Charlie's death. Millions of dollars poured in, much of it anonymously, driven by grief, outrage, and calls to honor Charlie's legacy. At the same time, Erika herself reportedly collected nearly $10 million through fundraising efforts, alongside insurance payouts and proceeds from property sales. To some observers, this financial surge seemed less like support for a mission and more like consolidation of wealth around one individual. While defenders argue that these funds were raised transparently and legally, critics question why so much money flowed so quickly with so few answers provided. In moments of tragedy, people give generously, but they also expect stewardship, not silence. The situation became even more complex when Erika inherited full control of TPUSA and related businesses. Overnight, she became CEO and took over Charlie's for-profit ventures as well, effectively assuming command of a sprawling nonprofit and business empire. For supporters, this transition represented continuity and stability during a painful time. For skeptics, it raised alarms about concentration of power. One person now held influence over donor funds, organizational messaging, and business operations, all while facing unresolved questions about transparency and intent. Even those inclined to give Erika the benefit of the doubt acknowledged that such consolidation demanded extraordinary accountability. As fundraising continued aggressively, donor discomfort intensified. Many began asking a straightforward but uncomfortable question: why was the organization still asking for money when Erika already possessed significant personal wealth from donations, insurance, assets, and business interests? The appeal to keep giving felt increasingly disconnected from financial reality. Supporters who once donated enthusiastically now wanted to know what specific needs justified continued campaigns. Without clear answers, fundraising efforts began to feel less like mission-driven necessity and more like routine extraction, eroding goodwill that had taken years to build. Underlying all of this is a broader concern about how nonprofit money can be quietly redirected without breaking the law. Experts point out that funds can move through marketing budgets, merchandise production, speaker fees, vendor contracts, travel expenses, security arrangements, and consulting services, all legally and often with minimal public scrutiny. This complexity makes it difficult for donors to trace exactly how their contributions are used. In the case of TPUSA, critics argue that this structural opacity creates opportunities for abuse, even if nothing overtly illegal occurs. When trust is already weakened, legal explanations alone are not enough to restore confidence. Today, trust in Erika is rapidly eroding among segments of the movement that once rallied unquestioningly around her. Past inconsistencies, non-stop media appearances, and what some perceive as relentless image building have fueled a belief that Charlie's death may have been leveraged as more than a personal tragedy. For critics, it looks increasingly like a business opportunity wrapped in mourning. Supporters insist this interpretation is unfair and cruel, but the doubts persist because questions remain unanswered. In the absence of transparency, speculation fills the gap, and once that cycle begins, it is difficult to stop. What emerges from this unfolding story is not a single accusation but a pattern of unresolved concerns. Financial confusion, vanished investigations, donor unrest, and concentrated power have combined into a narrative that many find deeply troubling. Whether these fears are ultimately validated or disproven, the damage to trust is already real. Organizations built on loyalty survive only as long as their supporters believe in their integrity. As calls for clarity grow louder, the future of TPUSA and Erika's leadership may depend less on fundraising success and more on whether honest answers finally come to light. If you want to stay informed as this story continues to unfold, hit the subscribe button for more future updates.